Do you feel as if there's too much pressure to have children? 0207 862 2222, that's the number. Let me know what you think, especially if you feel as if you had no choice but to become a parent. You may have heard Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson say she's worried about falling birth rates. She wants people to have more children. Downing Street's now said the Prime Minister shares her concern, although he believes that having a child should remain an individual's choice. Well, I certainly hope he does, otherwise we're really in trouble, aren't we? The number of babies born in 2023 was the lowest since 1977, and the average woman in England and Wales is expected to have fewer children in her lifetime than ever before. Polly, you say you knew at the age of 7 that you didn't want children.
I think so, yeah. I was incredibly young, and I remember a neighbour bringing round her newborn and asking me if I wanted to hold it, and me saying, absolutely not. And yet, it was just this deep, certain knowledge, which sounds very odd in a 7-year-old child.
It does.
I appreciate that. And people told me I'd grow out of it, and I didn't. And they said, oh, you'll meet someone, and I did, and that will change it, and it didn't. And then I started writing about it because I thought, this is interesting.
Yes.
And the response I got was fascinating. But I think because there has been pressure on me to have children, I have been completely resistant to it because I knew that that was not for me. But the things people say to you are extraordinary.
Can you explain a little bit about how you knew or what it was about having children you didn't want?
All I can explain is it seems to be exactly the way that women feel when they do want children,
yes,
but in reverse.
Right.
So it's that, no, I mean, it kind of, it was visceral.
Right.
As I got older, I thought, well, what's that going to mean for my career, body, relationship, time? None of which we know is very good, which Bridget Phillipson might want to think about addressing that if she wants more women to have children. So there came sort of intellectual layers on top of it. But at its heart, the idea of it just, it's a bit like somebody might say, why don't you move to Canada and open a horse farm? Don't want to.
Yes.
It's sort of it's a choice that I didn't want to. And now I find, people constantly tell me that I'd regret it, which again is irritating.
Yes.
I'd never said to a pregnant woman, oops, you're going to regret that. But, it's quite acceptable to say that to me. And now I find people getting really angry with me because I haven't.
And tell me about the reaction. So people are trying to save you from yourself and say, if you do this, you'll regret it because you just have no idea how much love, what you feel, how you're flooded with hormones. If you deprive yourself of this, you'll deprive yourself of that. So don't. Is that what it is?
All sorts of things. One of the things that I found particularly horrific is they say, but who's going to look after you when you're old? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to breed myself up a couple of nursemaids and get them locked into some kind of contract to make sure they're there. I mean, that's an awful reason to have children, isn't it? But yeah, all manner of things. Also, women like you should have children, meaning I think nice and middle class, which I found horrific. So all kinds of reasons. But yeah, I think there is an overriding feeling in society that is what women are for, fundamentally still. And if we don't do it, we can only end up sad. So when you don't, it's confusing.
Let me just ask you, it's a personal question, I hope you'll forgive me, but when you met the man that you love, and I know you've been together for a very long time, were you worried and anxious about having the conversation where you had to say, one of the things about me is I never want to have children? I
really can't remember feeling that. And I think it was just something that I expressed naturally. I didn't sit him down and go, look. I think it must have been something that I expressed naturally because it was definitely something I have always spoken about. And he was fine with that. And And
one more question. The family, so kind of your mother, his mother, that kind of thing, because you're saying, I don't want to have any children, and that means they're having to think, gosh, I'm never going to be a grandma. Was that a big deal?
Zero pressure from any of them, actually. And I have 2 sisters who both had children. So, I wonder how I'd feel if that hadn't been the case. But you cannot do something that dramatic with your body and your life unless you truly want it. I do think women are set on that path a bit unthinkingly, and I don't think that's necessarily fair.
Let's bring Becca into this because you haven't yet had children.
No, but I've read Polly's writing on this for a really long time. I remember Bad Feminist, your book was touched on this a lot. And this idea that, kind of if you don't have a child, you're sort of missing out. And there's that sort of, you talk at weddings or you meet people at parties and they're like, oh, do you have kids? And then you sort of get the sort of sad, kind of that sort of like, you're sort of there's something sad or tragic about you, when actually maybe it's a really, really empowered choice. And to the comment you made about Bridget Phillipson, I mean, that conversation is only ever had to women. I mean, what about blokes play a pretty big part in having kids too, but we don't make life particularly easy to be a mum at the moment. You know, childcare, cost of living, wage stagnation, you name it, getting back in the career, on the career ladder after you've taken a break. Like, society's geared against motherhood, but yet we sort of celebrate it as this kind of the epitome of womanhood when probably it isn't.
Do you feel as if you are being pressured by anyone? I don't know, family or friends or anyone?
Really, fortunately, not friends or family.
Yeah.
But I think with society, and we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Sort of, you know, on Instagram, kind of, you know, the sort of the ideal woman is, you know, the kind of earth mother. It's the Nara Smith. You know, you've got the 2 babies. You're making a home cooked meal in Chanel Couture. It's this sort of impossibility of womanhood. And I think it's as fine to be a mum as it is to not. And I think we haven't quite nailed that conversation yet.
Do you feel as if you've got an internal clock or pressure from you rather than from anyone
No, I
else?
don't think I do. And that kind of visceral reaction, like, no, I don't want to open a ranch in Canada, and I don't know if I necessarily want to be a mum. And I think people who do, that kind of incredible feeling and excitement you must get, please go ahead, and there's no judgment. Beautiful. But equally, go do you.
Paul Burke's already mentioned his son, who is divine. He's the most gorgeous fellow. He's a fantastic chef. He's a brilliant writer, and he's got an incredibly talented daughter too. You adore them. That's it.
Absolutely adore them.
Adore them.
Absolutely adore them. My feeling is that I come from a background of working in advertising, which was quite career driven. And if anything, women were encouraged not to have children because it would interfere with their careers. Yeah. And nobody can have everything. And I think particularly women are put under terrible pressure. Hey, have it all, have a career, have this, have children. And there are huge problems. I've seen women come back from maternity leave, my own wife included, not interested anymore. Priorities have changed. And then they feel guilty about that. But there's a simple solution. I think they trialled it in Hungary, is if a woman has a child, she pays 25% less tax for the rest of her life. 2 children, 50%. 3 children, and if she has 4, she never pays tax again.
But why should you pay full tax if you don't have a child?
No, if they really want to arrest the decline in birth rate, it's going to cost them money.
In France, you get more money the more children you have. Bigger family, rewards, free staff, money. You know, it's a completely different situation.
Until Bridget Phillipson,
you and your wife, I mean, I think it's fair to say, plunged into the parent thing just 3 months after you got to.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been going out for 3 months, and she said, I'm having your child. I remember thinking 3 months ago, I didn't know who you were. But I also believe that if you've got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you can split up, you've got a house, you can sell it, you've got a job. You have a child, you stick around.
Yeah.
You know, unless she was some sort of crack.
Isn't anyone going to ask me about my children? Come on. Ask me. I
your
can
children
ask myself.
You know how much
you have your lovely daughters.
Say you love your children. I can say yes, I do, because I do. I've got 2 daughters and 4 grandbabies.
And did you always want to be a mother?
Yes.
Was that always really important?
And you felt that thing that
we don't.
Yes. I just always wanted.
I'm the same with animals. I know when you say I've never wanted a dog or a cat or a guinea pig or anything ever. Yeah. And I think I made that decision before I was 7. I thought, what are these items? So I can sort of relate to you because it's a similar sort of thing.
I always did, and I was the one, and I knew lots of people in the same thing, where you're so worried in case you don't get pregnant that you start trying, years before you really want to, just in case it doesn't work, so that you know that thing, because you don't want to get caught later on and find I wanted to, and it's the only thing I've ever really cared about, and I can't do it. So yes, I had them. I was pretty young, early 20s, and but the grandbabies, I mean, that's where you really get into it. My God, amazing. All right. All geniuses, obviously. All geniuses, all beautiful, just absolutely marvellous in every way. Let's go to Lauren in London. Lauren, did you choose not to have children?
Yes, hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
I was 52. I chose at a very early age not to have children. I basically... put all my energy into my career. I was a mental health nurse for 30 years. I had a lot of fulfillment in that. Not having children, I've been able to travel the world, parties, meet people, do everything. And I just feel as a woman, just because I have the biological bits to have a baby, it doesn't necessarily mean that I should have one. And I know that the birth rate is falling, but there's a lot of people out there can't afford children. They just don't want children. How can can you have a life dragging children around after you? I don't regret my decision. I'm very happy that I never had children.
Lauren,
Good luck
so,
to those who do.
but just like Polly, did you have plenty of people saying to you, as if they knew better than you knew, you'll regret it, you'll be sorry, don't do this? Did you have that kind of in your ear?
All the time. And I worked, in quite sort of male-dominated environments, healthcare, and I worked as a nurse for the police. And it was, you're going to have kids one day, you don't know what you're missing out. And you shouldn't say that to women. For a start, you don't know whether they've been pregnant and had a loss or something. And I just don't think it's anybody's business. It's my body, it's my womb. If I want it filled, I will go and have it filled. I never felt the need, and it's nobody's business. That's what I think.
And it definitely hasn't set you back at all in your life, which is fascinating, and obviously will continue to be, plus this incredibly fulfilling job. Do you find that people say to men, when you're going to have a baby, you'll regret it if you don't, or not?
I think they do if you're with someone.
Right.
But I don't think they just say it at random. It's so much easier for a man. He doesn't have to carry the child for 9 months. And also, a man can father a child later than a woman can give birth.
No, it doesn't feel at all fair.
No, it's
to me.
not fair.
That just
It's
feels
not
terribly
fair.
I
unfair.
discovered while researching my
yes.
book that men's sperm becomes less...
Dishwater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It becomes...
Dishwater, how revolting is that?
Yeah.
Men's
Gosh, let's
fertility
move on.